All praise be to the Most High. So happy to be here before y'all. We're going to get into these scripts and we're going to get into a little bit of our forefather David, King David, some of his history, get a chance to look at his testimonies and the things that he went through on behalf of this truth, the Most High, and our people. So, before we start, just want to say, please like, share, subscribe, all the content, YouTube and Facebook. We're at True Nation Israelite Congregation. Man, support the works brothers is doing. We ain't asking y'all for nothing. However, if you do want to donate, we have that option as well. You can cash app us at True Nation 12. So without further ado, we're going to get into the lesson. And like I said, we are getting into King David, the beloved of the Most High, right? And it's a reason why that's the title of tonight's lesson, because you'll see that King David was an awesome individual. Like, we really read the testimonies of our forefathers, our foremothers, and get to see what it is they went through and how they were either righteous or wicked. And when you read the story, like, you get inspired. In Romans, it talks about these things were written for our learning. Like, we were supposed to read these history of our people and get inspired to do good for the Most High and for our people. And, that's what you get when you read King David's story. The brother went through a lot, but he also did a lot for our people as well. So, let me see here. Let's start with the book of Acts, chapter 13 and verse 22. And this is really the basis of the title, stemmed from this scripture here. Let's get the book of Acts, chapter 13 and verse 22, whenever you get it.
13 and 22?
Yes, sir.
The book of Acts, chapter 13 and verse 22.
Uh-huh.
And when he had removed him, he raised up unto them David to be their king.
So, look, Paul is preaching to our people here, giving them the history. He said, look, all this happened with King Saul, the first king of Israel. He got moved out the way, and the Most High raised up David to be their king. Read.
To whom also he gave testimony.
Uh-huh.
And said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart.
You see that? The Most High found King David, a man after his own heart. King David's heart, his mind was aligned with righteousness, aligned with the ways of the Most High. And that's why he was so beloved, not only by the Most High, but by Israel too. You're going to see it as we get through, but go ahead.
Which shall fulfill all my will.
You see that? And that's what our people need to understand. When you have a heart that's according to the heart of the Most High, you're going to do everything to fulfill his will. And, that's a lot of the issues that we struggle with today with modern Israelites. You got a lot of brothers whose hearts is not lined up with the Most High's, and they're not trying to do the Most High's will. They want to do their will. They want to do the things that please them, right? But you see, when things are done according to the scriptures, Israel, we live in peace. And then when we do the contrary, we live in cursed conditions, which is exactly what we're going through right now. So Acts 13:22, one more time. Go ahead.
And when he had removed him, he raised up unto them David to be their king,
Uh-huh.
to whom also he gave testimony,
Uh-huh.
and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart.
And this lets you know that it's definitely possible to reach that level of perfection to where the Most High is recognizing you as a righteous individual, somebody who shares the exact same thoughts, the exact same will as the Most High. If our forefather can do it, we can do it. All right? So let's go to the book of 1 Samuel. Let's get 1 Samuel chapter 16. And we're going to start at verse 1.
The book of 1 Samuel chapter 16 and verse 1. And the Lord said unto Samuel, how long wilt thou mourn for Saul?
Now, Samuel had a talk with the Most High. And the Most High had to get on Samuel because Samuel was a righteous prophet at that time, a very righteous prophet who led Israel. And he had a very close relationship with King Saul, who was the first king over Israel. Saul's heart departed away from the Most High. Saul got caught up in too much sin, wanting to do things his way, trying to do things to please the children of Israel instead of doing the things to please the Most High. And the Most High took his spirit away from Saul, and Saul went on a downward spiral. And so much that he's a big part of King David's history, right? So Saul, he felt bad about it. He said, man, I had this close connection with this brother. I know Most High, he's still praying on behalf of Saul, like, please. And the Most High had to check him like, look, dude, how much longer are you going to be tripping off of this dude who I took my spirit away from? Read.
Seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel.
You see that? He said, dude, I already done rejected this dude from reigning over Israel. Why are you still tripping? Go ahead.
Fill thine horn with oil and go. I will send thee to Jesse the Bethlehemite. For I have provided me a king among his sons.
So he said, look, get your horn, take your anointing oil, and get over to this city. I got a new king I want you to anoint. Go ahead.
And Samuel said, how can I go? If Saul hear it, he will kill me.
You see that? And that just goes to show how far away he went from the Most High.
Right.
He said Samuel was scared to go and look for this new king because if Saul found out, he would have him killed. So that lets you know. And look, this man, he was still calling himself an Israelite.
Right,
he was still keeping feasts. But go ahead.
And the Lord said, take an heifer with thee and say, I am come to sacrifice to the Lord.
So he said, look, I got you. Look, take you a cow, a little heifer, and say you got to go to this town because you got to give a sacrifice to me. Go ahead.
And call Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show thee what thou shalt do. And thou shalt anoint unto me him who I'm named unto thee.
So he said, look, I'm going to send you into this town. You're going to go to this man, Jesse, his household. He has a son that I'm going to want you to anoint. And that was a big thing, being anointed or being chosen, appointed by the Most High. You know, that was a huge thing. We saw from the beginning how big that played a part, right? Abraham being chosen. Most High delivered him from amongst his people to serve the Most High. Moses, he was anointed at that time. He was appointed, the one that the Most High was dealing with, you know, on behalf of the children of Israel. It's a big thing. A lot of reverence comes with that. So he said, look, I got somebody new that I want you to anoint. It's time that we get things right within Israel. Go ahead.
And Samuel did that which the Lord spake and came to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town trembled at his coming and said, comest thou peaceably? And
that just goes to show how the prophets really got down back in the day. When he came into this small town, they feared. They said, whoa, hold on. You the prophet of the Most High. Why are you coming here? You coming with peace?
Right.
Go ahead.
And he said, peaceably, I am come to sacrifice unto the Lord. Sanctify yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice. And he sanctified Jesse and his sons and called them to the sacrifice. And it came to pass, when they were come, that he looked on Eliab, and said, surely the Lord's anointed is before him.
So, you know, he gets to the point, he meets the family and everything. He said, look, it's a feast going on tonight. Y'all go home, wash up. I'm going to consecrate you and everything. We're going to be in here. We're going to dine. So he said, look, first son came up, Eliab. It says, surely the Lord's anointed is before him. Read.
But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him.
So he said, look, he was happy. He said, surely this is him. Brother was probably like 6'5", built, because he said, look, don't look at his stature. Right. He probably had the stature of a king, a warrior. But he said, look, that's not what I'm looking for. Go ahead.
For the Lord seeth not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart.
Go ahead.
Then Jesse called Abinadab.
My bad. I know some of these names be hard.
Abinadab.
Go ahead.
And made him pass before Samuel. And he said, neither hath the Lord chosen this. Then Jesse made Shammah to pass by, and he said, neither hath the Lord chosen this. Again, Jesse made 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel. And Samuel said unto Jesse, the Lord hath not chosen thee.
You see that? He sent all his sons. Look, go. But he said, nah, them ain't it. Read on.
And Samuel said unto Jesse, are here all thy children? And he said, there remaineth yet the youngest, and behold, he keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, send and fetch him, for we will not sit down till he come hither. And he sent and brought him in. Now he was ready, and withal of a beauty countenance, and goodly to look to.
So it just goes to show Jesse, he wasn't even considering David to be that king, because he didn't even call him forth when the prophet came and said, bring all your sons. He said, I know you're not talking about David in the back, the one that's keeping the sheep. And it says that he was ready, right? He starts to go into his countenance, the way he looked. People use that to say, oh, he was red and he was a white man. No. That just means you ever seen when people blush, they got that blood flowing through their skin, and when brothers start drinking, they get that red tint to them, like the Native Americans. It just means he was lively. And it further clarifies that. It says he was goodly to look upon. He was a handsome brother. He was very lively. Go ahead.
And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward.
So look at that. He got anointed, and it said from that day forward, the Spirit of the Most High was upon this brother. He was growing in it every single day, getting more and more at an accelerated rate, all because he was anointed by the prophet of the Most High. So it goes to show how big of a deal that was. Read on, and I'm going to have you reading a little bit tonight. So
Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him.
Look at that. And as David is going to be progressively getting better and better, this brother, he's going to get progressively worse and worse. It said, Most High had already said that I took my spirit away from him, but it said now it's getting replaced with an evil spirit. Go ahead.
Verse 15. And Saul's servant said unto him, behold now, an evil spirit from the Most High troubleth thee. Let our Lord now command thy servants, which are before thee, to seek out a man who is a cunning player on a harp. And it shall come to pass, when the evil spirit from the Most High is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand, and thou shalt be well.
And so look, it said, man, this dude was noticeably wicked. Even his servants and his brothers that was around him had to get on him like, hey, man, you got an evil spirit on you. Like, look, if anything, let us try to find a musician who's going to be able to calm you down and, check you when you tripping with some good music. Right. He said, yeah, that sounds smart. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, verse 17. And Saul said unto his servants, provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me. Then answered one of the servants and said, behold, I have seen a son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite, that is cunning in playing, and a mighty, valiant man, and a man of war, and prudent in matters.
Look at that. From the description that Jesse gave Samuel the prophet, he made it seem as if David was like just some young punk who couldn't do no push-ups or nothing like that. However, people in the town knew about David, and it said, look, I know somebody. Not only can he play well, but he's valiant, a man of war, and he's prudent in matters. He was a sharp brother and a warrior. Go ahead.
And a comely person.
And he's beautiful. Again, like, dude was handsome. Go ahead.
And the Lord is with him. Wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Jesse and said, send me David thy son.
Look at that. Most High setting up the stage. Look, I done consecrated you. I done anointed you. Now I'm about to actually get you up in there. Read.
Send me David thy son, which is with the sheep. And Jesse took an ass laden with bread and a bottle of wine and a kid, and sent them by David his son unto Saul. And David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly.
Look at that. Right when he seen him, he said, man, you a good brother. I love you for this. I appreciate this. Go ahead.
And he became his armor bearer. And Saul sent to Jesse, saying, let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he hath found favor in my sight.
And he said, look, man, I know he living with you, but man, let him stay over here with me in the palace. I really could use this dude. He's a asset here. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from the Most High was upon Saul, that David took an harp and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him.
Look at that. David was the man since a young man. Dude was a great musician. He was a warrior. Dependable, righteous. That's everything we aspiring to be. And that's the thing. This is why Esau doesn't want our people learning his history, because they want us to think we didn't came from people who was cooking crack and pimping hoes. That's what our culture is. Not this, though. This is everything but what they teach us here. So, basically, they start to get, acquainted with one another. He was around, and the Most High was dealing with David. He was making sure that he was carrying himself wisely in all the matters. And what you'll find out is the Philistines, which was one of Israel's greatest enemies when you read the scriptures, we was at war. And, you get to see an opportunity where Israel was slipping. They really didn't have the faith that they should have at the time in the Most High, and they fell into a state of fear. And David is going to go out and actually rescue them, a real hero. So let's go over to chapter 17, and let's start at verse 1.
The book of 1 Samuel, chapter 17, and verse 1.
Uh-huh.
Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together at Shucah, which belongeth to Judah, and pitched between Shucah and Azekah and Ephes-dammim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah and set the battle in array against the Philistines.
Look at that. So the battle was on. Israel, we wasn't no punks. That's why the Most High says, y'all need to read y'all history. When you had nations coming against you, we fought back. We wasn't marching, hands up, don't shoot. We wasn't doing that. We fought back. It said, hey, the battle was up. It started. Go ahead.
Verse 3, and the Philistines stood on a mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side.
Imagine that. You grew up in the hood. You know what them street beefs was like, where it's like 10 versus 10. Imagine you got 1,000 versus 1,000 just staring at each other like ready. You feel me? Big brawls. Anybody ever been in a brawl? It's kind of like that. But man, times 100. This is war. Go ahead.
And there was a valley between them. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span.
So, hey, the Philistines, this is big open space. They send out their champion. Dude is monstrous, huge. A man who all he know is war, just rough. Looking like the secret weapon. They let him out, right? Read.
And he had an helmet of brass upon his head. And he was armed with the coat of mail. And the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass.
It's going to show you, like, this isn't some normal stuff. This was a very large individual. He was strong. His armor is extremely heavy. Go ahead.
And he had grease of brass upon his legs and a target of brass between his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam. And his spear head weighed 600 shekels of iron.
Drop down to reverse 8.
Verse 8. And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel and said unto them, why are ye come out to set your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and ye servants to Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me.
He said, look, let's make this simple. We ain't even got to do the extras. Just send your best person out. We're going to settle it like this. Champion, go ahead.
If he be able to fight with me and to kill me, then will we be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall ye be our servants and serve us.
Dude putting the contract out there. He said, look, we both fighting. I win, y'all serve us. You win, we serve y'all. Now, is this something that Israel should have even considered, knowing who our power is? No. We don't make no deals with the heathens. Don't the scriptures say that? Make no covenants with them? Not to this degree, but go ahead.
And the Philistines said, I defied the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together.
So this lets you know it was a while. Ain't nobody go out there to go fight him. And he like, dude, what's up? Send your person out. Let's get it going. Go ahead.
When Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid.
Look at that. It just goes to show the power of a leader. If your leader is a coward, the people are going to be cowardly. There's no way, Israel, we should have ever been tripping off of the threats of that Philistine, knowing we got the Most High as our power, the one who literally destroyed Egypt on our behalf. Why would we be worried about that? But just to bring it up to speed, so we don't have to read through everything, they start sending messengers throughout the city looking for somebody because all the armies of Israel, nobody was willing to go up. So they start sending the messengers out. Word gets back to David. He's like, what? He stopped what he was doing immediately and ran to the battlefield. So let's pick up. Read verse 33.
All right, verse 33. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war.
You see that?
Youth.
He coming up to say, I want to save y'all because y'all acting like some little...
Right.
And he would say, man, you can't do it.
Right.
You like 18, 20, dude. Like, this dude's been at war his whole life. Right. What you know about this? Go ahead.
And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep And there came a lion and a bear and took a lamb out of the flock.
He said, hold on, dude. Don't sit here and try to play me like I ain't never did nothing, like I'm not down for this. There was a time where a bear came and got one of my dad's sheep. Go ahead.
And I went out after him and smote him. I smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him.
Do you see this? He said, I got with both of them, the bear and the lion. I slew him. Go ahead.
Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God.
Look at that. Beloved of the Most High. That's why the Most High loved David. He said, dude, how could you forget about me? I'm your power. He said, man, I done took out a bear and a lion. What? This dude about to be easier than that. Because he going to defy the armies of Israel, the only true living God, the Most High Yahweh. Go ahead.
Verse 37. David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine.
Yep.
And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee.
Look at that. He said, all right, go. So look, he sprung into action. When something needed to be handled within the nation, he had no second thought. He didn't second guess it at all. He said, I'm there for my people. That's why he became beloved of the Most High, because he had those type of characteristics and traits within him. So we all know the story of David and Goliath. He ends up going out to the battlefield. And it's funny because they tried to put armor and all this stuff that the regular warriors was wearing. He said, man, I can't do nothing with this. Just, where's my sling? They said, what? So they gave him that sling, and no, he killed Goliath. Threw the rock in his head where it said it sunk in his skull. And then afterwards ran up on him and chopped his head off. So it was a big party in Israel, huge. Like all the streets, people was dancing and singing, giving the, Israel and the Most High praises, but specifically David because he literally saved the nation. If he wouldn't have stepped up, Israel would have been in captivity at that point. So it ain't no telling how that captivity would have affected the next one and so on and so forth. Right? So, like I said, David getting his praises, and that's where you see Saul. He starts to get even more of an evil spirit because he starts to envy David. He was upset that the people was giving him more love than he was receiving. So let's go over to chapter 18 and let's read verse 5.
It's the book of 1 Samuel chapter 18 and verse 5. And David went out whithersoever Saul sent him and behaved himself wisely. And Saul set him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people and also in the sight of Saul's servants.
You see that? It said, man, this brother, he was just an excellent individual. Everything he was doing was right by people. He wasn't cussing nobody out just because he was in an authoritative position. He wasn't using and abusing people. He really dealt right by the people. And it said, man, everybody received him well. And he behaved himself wisely. Always practicing oh, look at these clowns outside. Gotta love it. But he was exercising that spirit of wisdom, right? And the people loved him for it. But go ahead.
Verse 6. And it came to pass, as they came when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, that the women came out of all cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music. Because
he the team captain, of course. You know, if the team win, ultimately it's on him, even though everybody had their individual parts. They came up and met with him, praising the king. All praises, your army got the dub. But go ahead.
And the women answered one another as they played and said, Saul hath slain his thousands and David his 10,000.
They said, man, but David, he was MVP that game.
Right.
Saul, man, he was out there putting a couple thousand to death doing his thing. But David, girl, he tens thousands. Woo! And they all singing this throughout the streets, right? Go ahead.
And Saul was very wroth.
Look, he was hot. He was like, damn. Go ahead.
And the saying displeased him.
And
he said, they have ascribed unto David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed but thousands.
He said, man, they sitting there big up in this dude killed. They only giving me this little bit. But it's about to show you how far he was in envy. Go ahead.
And what can he have more but the kingdom?
Look at that. He being extra. They might as well just give him the kingdom at this point. Already lets you know he was being in an effeminate state at that point, being envious of his brother because the Most High. And that's the thing. He forgot that the Most High is the one who did that for him.
Right.
It wasn't David himself. And the cold part is he's the one who gave him the okay.
Right.
He said, all right, go ahead. Most High be with you. And now you mad because the Most High with him. And the thing is, we experience things like this, even in this truth. Again, that's why we have these scriptures to read from and learn from. Go ahead.
And verse 9. And Saul eyed David from that day and forward.
Look at that. He eyed him. And that's that evil eye that the curses talk about in Deuteronomy chapter 28. Had an evil eye toward his brother.
Right.
I'm watching this nigga. Feeling like, and that's the cold part, because Saul was so worried about his kingship, he forgot that the Most High is the one that gave it to him. He got into a mind state and thought that he deserved it and that he worked for this. The Most High made that happen for him. So now he was sitting here getting upset because the Most High was trying to put somebody else up. How you going to kick against the pricks? Come on now. Right. So he said he eyed him from that day forward. Let's go to, keep reading actually.
Verse 10.
Uh-huh.
And it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from the Most High came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house.
Uh-huh. So he was teaching in the midst of his house. Go ahead.
And David played with his hand as at other times. And there was a javelin in Saul's hand.
So look. It's a javelin. Y'all know what a javelin is, right? It's that big old heavy stick. It's pretty much a spear. He going off. he was in an evil spirit. He probably cussing everybody out in the house, going hard. David said, man, let me hop on his harp. He started playing the strings, right? He said, but he had a javelin in his hand, read.
And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it.
Saul, don't get it twisted. Saul was a warrior. So you ain't dealing with no scrawny dude. He picked up this javelin. He said, I'm throwing it so hard. I want it to go through David into the wall. Go ahead.
And David avoided out of his presence twice. And Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him and was departed from Saul.
This man literally tried to take his life twice. And for all of that, if that was you, how would you have reacted? It says he avoided him twice. Right. If I know you tried to kill me once, I'm killing you, bro. Well, yeah, you trying to kill me at this point. It's on. He said he avoided him twice. It starts to really unfold the layers of the character of this man that we speaking about. You gonna understand. Go ahead.
And okay, verse 13. Therefore Saul removed him from him and made him his captain over 1,000. And he went out and came in before the people.
So after the 2 failed attempts of murder, he said, you know what, I'm just about to get this dude up out of here. He started to lose that favor that he once had. He said, man, get out of my presence. You be over you be a captain over the 1,000 over there. Whole time, David, he's still in and out with the people, meaning he was doing things for him. They was doing things for him. When they was going out to war, he was going out to war and coming back before him as well. He was really in the trenches with Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Wherefore, when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him.
You see that? And that lets you know how reprobate a spirit that brother had, because he would recognize, like, man, the Most High is with this Jake, and now I'm scared. But then he would get in his pride and still allow that to cloud his judgment and go forth with sin. That's a message for all of us. We got to be able to check that. Go ahead.
But all Israel and Judah loved David.
You see that? Everybody loved David because of how he behaved himself, keeping these commandments, making sure that the nation was straight. And there's many characteristics about David, but his thing is he loved righteousness, right? So let's go to chapter 19. Let's flip over to 19 and start at verse 1.
The book of 1 Samuel, chapter 19 and verse 1.
Uh-huh.
And Saul spake to Jonathan his son and to all his servants that they should kill David.
Now, here's the thing. It got to the point where Saul was putting a hit out. He said, I want David dead. And David ain't did nothing to Saul, unrighteous, nothing. He said, I want this man dead, though. And this is where we read about David starting to flee. Right? Go ahead.
But Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted much in David. And Jonathan told David, saying, Saul, my father, seeketh to kill thee. Now, therefore, I pray thee, take heed to thyself until the morning, and abide in a secret place, and hide thyself.
Mm-hmm.
And I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where thou art, and I will commune with my father of thee, and what I see, that I will tell thee.
So he said, look, man, just hide yourself out. I'm going to deal with my dad, and I'm going to let you know what it's going to be. Drop down and read verse 8.
Verse 8, and there was a war again, and David went out and fought with the Philistines and slew them with a great slaughter.
Uh-huh.
And they fled from him. And the evil spirit from the Lord was upon Saul, and as he sat in his house with the javelin in his hand, and David played with his hand.
Look at that. He's still in this man's house knowing he tried to kill him twice. And he's going to reveal why he did all of that as we get through this. But just to think, man, of how humble you would have to be, how meek, really trusting in the Most High. Like, I'm in this, like, that's basically a gun. Like, if the dude's sitting over there and he got a javelin, he can hit me, you know? So it's not like David was way on the other side. They was in close quarters. He was still playing the heart. Go ahead.
And Saul sought to smite David even to the wall with the javelin, but he slipped away out of Saul's presence, and he smote the javelin into the wall. Ooh. And David fled and escaped that night.
So he said, look, David had to get up out of there. That time I had to escape. Remember, before it said he avoided, and this time I needed to get up out of there. Right. Because remember, Saul had already been talking to his servants, and that's the thing. Because he was the king, they were willing to do his word, whether it was good or evil. Crazy. Drop down and read verse 12.
Verse 12. So Michael let David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped.
So Michal, his wife, let him out through a window. He got up out of there. Read.
And Michal took an image and laid it in the bed and put a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster and covered it with a cloth.
It's like some stuff you watching a movie. He said, man, look, she didn't help him get up out the window. What's that? With the fugitive, when you helping the fugitive, what they call that? Man, not accessory, something like that. It's like a baiting or something like that, a fugitive. But anyway, she was helping him escape. Yeah, that's what, aiding a fugitive. She didn't told the guards he upstairs sick, let him out through the window, and she done made like a little fake David in the bed. Go ahead.
Wait, where we at? Verse 6?
Verse 13, verse 14.
Verse 14. And when Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, he is sick.
Mm-hmm.
And Saul sent the messengers again to see David, saying, bring him up to me in the bed that I may slay him.
Well, he said, I don't care if you got to drag him, like bring the whole bed out. I'm about to slay this dude. Go ahead.
And when the messengers were come in, when the messengers were come in, behold, there was an image in the bed with the pillow of goat's hair for his bolster. And Saul said unto Michal, why hast thou deceived me so, and sent away my enemy that he is escaped?
Look at that. Saul said, David is my enemy, and he ain't did nothing to him. Go ahead.
And Michal answered Saul, he said unto me, let me go. Why should I kill thee? So David fled and escaped and came to Samuel to Ramah and told him all that. And Samuel went and dwelt in Naioth. And it was told Saul, saying, behold, David is at Naioth in Ramah. So
pretty much David had to get up out of there and met Samuel in the city. And he was letting him know, like, look, dude, this is everything the king is doing to me. And, Saul, he's heard where, David ran to, and he's about to start sending people over there, sending the troops. Like, this was like some real life war, like America's Most Wanted type stuff. He's sending SWAT after him, basically. And he ain't did nothing. All because Saul was jealous. That spirit of envy can't be present. Just to kind of skip through this a little bit, drop down to read verse 21.
Verse 21. And when it was told Saul, he sent other messengers, and they prophesied likewise. And Saul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied also.
So basically, Saul was sending waves of people to go get David, and every time Saul would send a wave, the Most High would stop them and have them start prophesying with the other prophets around. So it never got to David. Just goes to show the Most High, when he's with you, nobody can be against you. He's stopping everything. That's that no weapon formed against me shall prosper, for real, for real. So let's go over to chapter 24. So, we start to go through a long history of David fleeing from place to place, having to befriend certain people, even heathens at times, looking for a place of refuge, really running from Saul. And the whole time Israel would be at war with the Philistines, Saul would take time to leave that to come and search for David. It's crazy. Go ahead and start at verse 1.
It's the book of 1 Samuel chapter 24 and verse 1. And it came to pass when Saul was returned from following the Philistines, that it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness of Engedi.
I don't know.
Engedi.
But man, look, the whole time they still got to work. Hey, we heard David over here. But read.
Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats.
Look at that. He said, man, I know David could kill a couple thousand. We can't come up here light and playing around. Read.
Verse 3. And it came to the sheepcotes by the way, where was a cave, and Saul went in to cover his And Saul went in to cover his feet.
So go ahead.
And David and his men remained in the sides of the cave.
So now we're going to get into why David actually started to spare Saul. So David had him trapped. They was hanging out in the sides of the cave, and Saul went inside. He said, look, man, I'm going to get off my feet. Whatever, it might have been bad conditions. I'm going to let my feet dry off and all that. I'm going to go in here and chill out. David had him dead to rights. They were surrounded. So this is what we're dealing with at this point. Whole time Saul, he's been going city to city, country to country, basically looking for David. And now David has him in his sights, and Saul doesn't even know it. But go ahead.
Verse 4. And the men of David said unto him, Behold, the day of which the Lord said unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thine hand, that thou mayest do to him as it shall seem good unto thee.
Look, the Most High was prophesying to David. He was letting them know, and he was letting his men know what he was hearing from the Most High. He said, look, this that day you was talking about. When you said the Most High was going to deliver your enemy, nigga, he's right here. Like, that's basically what they talking about. Go ahead.
Then David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privily.
Oh, so look, he snuck in there, and he said he cut a piece of his garment off privately. He didn't want to wake him up, just wanted to get that. Boom. Go ahead.
And it came to pass afterward that David's heart smote him because he had cut off Saul's skirt.
Now watch this. He said his heart smote him, meaning he was heartbroken off of what he did. Read.
And he said unto his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master.
Whoa. This man that tried to kill you multiple occasions, you calling him master? Go ahead.
The Lord's anointed, to stretch forth my hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord.
Now it makes sense. He said, man, this is who the Most High chose. Who am I to do anything to this man when the Most High himself is dealing with him? That's what it all boiled down to. The Most High anointed King Saul. And David had enough sense and enough respect of the Most High to not even tamper with that. Right. When by law, he had more than enough right to. But watch this, read.
Verse 7. So David stayed his servants with these words and suffered them not to rise against Saul.
Yeah, because they was ready to go. And he said, look, I'm going to let y'all know this, and we're not touching them. And that's that. Go ahead.
But Saul rose up out of the cave and went on his way. David also arose afterward and went out of the cave and cried after Saul, saying, My Lord, the king.
Now, these men, they ain't seen face to face like that in a long time. It's been quick interactions because it's been years that this man has been chasing him, trying to kill him. So they finally having that face to face. They running out, he crying. He like, damn, like, and he look at the reverence he's still giving this man. And I know it's a sidebar, but it's like, damn, these days, look how the husbands get talked to by the women, and brothers were still in a state that they was going through, willing to humble themselves and not talk crazy to the king. Like, that's crazy. We so quick to jump one another throat, like, but we never want to exercise this. And I'm not saying no one's anointed in here, but just having that love for the brotherhood.
Yeah, you gotta love your people.
David loved his people, and that's another reason why the Most High loved him. Everything he did was always on behalf of the people. David was a young man. He could have been out there turning up with the homies and everything, but nah. When Saul gave him that position of authority, he took it and ran with it. He said, I'm going to be the best general, captain, whatever it is you need me to be. And that's that scripture where it says, when I was a child, I spake as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. He said, hey, now I got to do this on behalf of my people. But go ahead.
And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed himself.
Look at this. Bowed himself to the king. Still. Go ahead.
And David said to Saul, wherefore hearest thou men's words, saying, behold, David seeketh thy hurt? Behold, this day thine eyes have seen how the Lord had delivered thee today into my hand in the cave.
He said, nigga, ain't you been hearing the rumors that I want you dead, that I want your blood? I could have killed you, bro. Look, here's a piece of your skirt. I cut it off. I had you. Read.
And some bade me kill thee.
My man was telling me I should have killed you. Go ahead.
But my eye spared thee. And I said, I will not put forth my hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed.
Look at that. All because you're the Lord's anointed. I'm following the code. Read.
Moreover, my father, see the skirt of thy robe in my hand, for in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe and killed thee not. Know thou and see that there is neither evil nor transgression in my hand.
He said, man, I really had to be the bigger man in all of this. I went the extra mile just to show you I'm not the one in the wrong. You are. All this David wanted him to do is repent. Like literally, I'm showing you I am innocent. You're the one in the wrong. Why can't you see it? Go ahead.
And I have not sinned against thee, yet thou huntest my soul to take
He
me.
said, you hunting my soul. You want me dead and gone. You'd rather me be under the dirt, and I haven't done anything to you. You can only imagine how that conversation was going. Again, this isn't some man who stole something. He tried to kill him multiple times.
Yeah, that's serious.
It's a heated argument. Read.
The Lord judged between me and thee, and the Lord avenged me of thee. But mine hand shall not be upon thee. As saith the proverb of the ancients, wickedness proceedeth from the wicked, but my hand shall not be upon thee.
Ooh, we hitting them with scripts.
Man.
Go ahead.
After whom is the king of Israel come out? After whom doest thou pursue?
He said, and like, dude, you the king of Israel. Who are you trying to seek out and kill? Look how David compared himself to. Go ahead.
After a dead dog? After a flea?
He said, I'm nothing but a dead dog or a flea, dude. Like, you shouldn't even be worried about me. That's humility. Because David already knew the Most High crowned him as king. But he said, I'm not the king yet. So he still acted his part. Right. He didn't say, nigga, I'm about to be king and whoop-de-whoop-whoop. He said, I'm nothing. I'm a dead dog, a flea. Like, you coming out of your palace, your royalty, your wives, you leaving your kids at home to chase me?
Real humble, man.
That is humility to, my goodness, the point. Like, wow. I'm telling you, we got a cold history. And it's a reason why the Most High has the standard of righteousness set to where it's at, is because that's literally what the world is supposed to emulate. These laws, we forget that a lot of times. We were supposed to be the standard of the world by keeping the Most High's commandments. But go ahead.
We're going to go to verse 15. Verse 15. The Lord therefore be judged and judge between me thee and see and plead my cause.
Uh-huh.
Deliver me out of thine hand. And it came to pass when David had made an end of speaking these words unto Saul.
Because you know he was probably speechless. He was like, go ahead.
Salakia.
Slow it
It
down.
came to pass when David had made an end, Saul said, is this thy voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept.
Uh-huh.
And he said to David, thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And thou hast showed this day how that thou hast dealt with me, for as much as when the Lord had delivered me into thine hand, thou killedst me not.
It really took all of that just for Saul to realize he was in error. Right. Go ahead. My bad. Don't let that be you. Israel, we be acting like we got to be on our dying bed just for us to admit we wrong and tell somebody sorry. Don't be that. Don't be Saul. Go ahead.
Right. Verse 19. For if a man find his enemy, will he let him go well away? Wherefore the Lord reward thee good, for thou hast done unto me this day.
Uh-huh.
And now behold, I know well that thou surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in thine hand.
Look at that. He gave it up. He said, look, man, words honestly can't even do enough. So I'm going to have to let my actions show. Like, I acknowledge the Most High got you up next. This kingdom is going to be set up for you. And that's what it boils down to. That Jake had to humble down and repent. Now, whether or not the Most High is going to deliver his soul, who knows? But the whole thing is we have these examples to learn from. We don't want to be like this. We don't want to be like King Saul. We want to be like David. And the thing is, when you actually read through all the history of our people, you'll see how the Most High has like continuity with who he deals with. Everybody has a similar spirit in righteousness. Because you had righteous people in the Bible that, you know, the scriptures talk about that. But then you had those who the Most High was dealing with. It's like, okay, well, what made these people different? And it's like, oh, okay, they all had these similar characteristics. They all practiced these certain things. And that's what you read in the New Testament when it said, look, you want to covet the best gifts. You always want to be abounding in the word of the Most High. If you got patience, man, to your patience, add virtue. To virtue, add temperance. To temperance, add loving kindness. Like we always want to be developing ourselves with all these different gifts and all these good characteristics because that's how you're going to be beloved of the Most High. And that was the whole thing that was shown with David. He gave him his spirit. And over time, he just got better and better and better, applying the wisdom of the scriptures and applying what it is the Most High was giving him. Because Jake's really be thinking like you can just read every single day and you're just going to like, dude, you can know it all and still be an asshole. You can know it all and still be like, you know, scum. But when you actually apply what it is you're reading, then your spirit can be exercised. And like the scriptures say, you can be renewed in the spirit of your mind, become that brand new individual, that righteous individual. So enough with me ranting. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 7. And eventually, Saul ends up dying. A point that I forgot to make. Saul's son, Jonathan, him and David ended up becoming best friends. Like, you know, like super, super close. And, you know, they went to war together a few times. And you'll actually end up finding out that they both died in battle. And David had to hear about it because they didn't see each other after they made that pact. Once David left, because he was running from Saul, they had never saw each other again. He said, I'm not coming back. So that was a real, you know, emotional moment for both of them. And then the next time he hears about his dear friend was years later and that he had died in battle. So you can only imagine how that made him feel, right? But read that for me. Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 7.
When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him.
You see that? And we see that with King David. We say, damn, everybody who wanted to be against him, that's like, man, he was a good dude, though. Most High changed their spirit. Like, nah, I'm going to appease that. Don't worry about it. And even though it was a little season until Saul got it right, still at the very end, my bad, cool, boom. but he didn't allow that season to alter his righteousness or take him out of character to do something otherwise than what the Most High wanted. And that's the thing that you really got to take away from that. So it says, look, when your ways please the Most High, because like I said, you can be keeping the commandments and still have a messed up character and you don't really please the Most High. You teaching that we got to love each other and whoopty whoop whoop. You at the feast, but you don't be showing that love towards your people, right? So he said, when your ways, actually, when you really live in this word, man, the Most High will open so many doors for you, put out so many fires for you wouldn't even know, but he taking care of you. So go to 2 Samuel chapter 1. Watch this. Because I know a lot of times we read about the virtuous woman in Proverbs 31, but there was men who had a lot of virtue as well. And David was one of those men. Go ahead and start verse 1.
It's the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass after the death of Saul, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites.
So look at that. We had David killing Amalekites, little Edomites. We had him killing Philistines, the real Africans. And he had heard he's about to get news that Saul died in battle. Go ahead.
And David had abode 2 days in Ziklag. It came even to pass on the third day that, behold, a man came out of the camp from Saul with his clothes rent and earth upon his head. And so it was, when he came to David, that he fell to the earth and did obeisance. So he said, look, man, David chilling. It's the third day. He's getting ready to leave. And some dude running up to him, clothes rent, dirty, like look like just came out of battle. He's like, whoa, go ahead. And David said unto him, from whence thou comest thou? And he said unto him, out of the camp of Israel, and am I escaped?
Look, he coming to an Israelite telling him, I just escaped y'all. But he understood who David was. He was king. Go ahead.
And David said unto him, how went the matter?
Oh, he's like, man, well, tell me what's going on. Read.
I pray thee, tell me. And he answered, that the people are fled from the battle, and many of the people are fallen and dead. And Saul and Jonathan, his son, are dead also.
Man, so this is where he's getting the news. Read.
And David said unto the young man that told him, how knowest thou that Saul and Jonathan, his son, be dead? And the young man that told him said, as I happened by chance upon Mount Gilboa, behold, Saul leaned upon his spear, and lo, the chariots and horsemen follow hard after him. And when he looked behind him, he saw me and called unto me, and I answered, here I am. Here am I.
So look, this dude said, well, I'm going to let you know what happened. I don't know, by the grace of God, whatever happened, I'm running away. I'll run into Saul. He ain't doing too good, right? Go ahead.
And he said unto me, who art thou? And I answered him, I am a Amalekite.
Amalekite, come.
And he said unto me again, stand, I pray thee, upon me and slay me, for anguish is come upon me, because my life is yet whole in me. He
said, man, I don't want to go out like this. I'm suffering bad right now. I'd rather you just put me out of my misery. Go ahead.
So I stood upon him and slew him, because I was sure that he could not live after that he was fallen. And I took the crown that was upon his head and bracelet that was on his arm, and I brought them hither unto my Lord.
And he was like, look, the only reason why I did it is because I truly didn't believe anybody was going to get to him. He was going to die regardless, so I just wanted to help him out. And you see, I got his crown, I got his thing, I'm bringing it all to you. Go ahead.
Then David took hold on his clothes and rent them, and likewise all the men that were with him.
So the man, they hurt, because I was still the king of Israel, and now he lost his best friend. Everybody's hurting. Go ahead.
And they mourned and wept and fasted until even for Saul and for Jonathan his son, and for the people of the Lord, and for the house of Israel, because they were fallen by the sword. And David said unto the young man,
and just to pause, just to look at the virtue, he said, man, we're going to just mourn the fact that we lost some of our people today. Today, we see our people getting gunned down on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We just like, oh, well, that's not me. All that type of stuff, right? He didn't even have to necessarily know who it was that died, because it wasn't just, Saul and Jonathan, but he was upset because his people died. He loved his people. Go ahead.
And David said unto the young men that told him, Whence art thou? And he answered, I am the son of a stranger and Amalekite. And David said unto him, How wast thou not afraid to stretch forth thine hand to destroy the Lord's anointed?
Look at that. Still keeping it true. Man. How was you not afraid to put your hands on the Most High's anointed? Are you stupid? Read.
And David called one of the young men and said, Go near and fall upon him. And he smote him that he died.
Everybody would talk about, I got shooters. David called one of his young men and said, hey, go put that nigga to death. Walked upon him and killed him on the spot. How dare you touch the Most High's anointed? Goes to show how far David was willing to uphold the order that was set up. He didn't, just because Saul was wicked, he didn't use that as an opportunity to just break the code of the Most High. And he said, nah, even though the Most High gave me over, I'm not going to do that. And nobody else should either. And that's why you got to realize why nobody put King David to death. Because you got a lot of people, when they start arguing like sins worthy of death, right? People who out here, let's just say you doing homosexual stuff, or you out here committing adultery. I mean, but what about King David? Well, dude, for one, you wasn't anointed, bro. You was not anointed. We're not finna put you to death, but you can't be around here. Most High gonna deal with you. But nobody was able to put King David to death for the sin that he did. And and that's the thing. For all the good that our forefather David did, unfortunately he did mess up, just like most of us. He messed up big time, though. A big no-no. But he showed how one can repent in truth and sincerity. Because you got a lot of people who halfway repenting. David messed up that one time with murder and adultery, and he never went back to it again. And so much when people, because the Most High, he destroyed David's household. That's another thing too. For brothers out here who want to argue about that type of stuff, you're not willing to go through the stuff David went through to be forgiven of the Most High. And then even that, it's not a guarantee that he was forgiven. We just going based off of what we think seems right. So it's a lot. It's a whole lot. But like I was saying, you had people who had riled up against David, and this dude threw a big old rock, like something like this, at his head, had him leaking. And his guards was like, dude, I'm about to go put the dude to death. Like, don't even worry about it. And he was like, nah, don't do it. I deserve this. Jakes don't be that humble. That's the type of standard we need to step up to. But go ahead.
Verse 16. And David said unto him, Thy blood be upon thy head, for thy mouth hath testified against thee, saying, I have slain the Lord's anointed.
Man, so he said, look, dude, you called this upon yourself. You admitted that you killed the anointed of the Most High. I had to do it. And he didn't think twice about it. So those are definitely some of the characteristics we want to hone in on and really meditate on. It's a reason why the Most High says to meditate upon this word. Studying it, researching, and then meditating, those are all completely different things. So when you start to meditate, it's like, man, okay, I actually see some of the character flaws I have and how I want to be more like this person in the scriptures or more like that person. And the Most High give it to you as long as you asking for it in sincerity. That's what Solomon asked for. He wasn't like, man, give me the riches and the gold. He said, look, I want to be wise. I want to be righteous. And I want to do like what my father did. And I want to lead my people righteously. Most High said, here you go. I'm going to give it to you all. Because it was coming from a pure place. So with that, let's go over to the book of Sirach, chapter 49. So, the brother had a lot of virtue. He was very righteous. He loved his people. And was willing to do anything for his people. Go the distance, literally. And that's the reason why it says the beloved of the Most High. These are the things that the Most High loved about David and loves within us when we exercise these same things.
Sirach 49 and what?
49 and verse 3.
It's the book of Sirach, chapter 49 and verse 3. He directed his heart unto the Lord. In the time of the ungodly, he established the worship of the Most High.
Because that's exactly what David did. Go ahead.
All except David and Ezekiel and Josiah's were defective.
So look, the scriptures are saying outside of these three kings, everybody else was defective. Bad parts. Can't get rights. So the Most High said David was exceptional. And you read about the thing, it's like, okay, man, I see why. And everybody else was defective. That's a cold scripture. The Most High is the one who said that. So you don't think he's saying the same thing today if we have stepping? He said, man, you defective. Good for nothing. Vain. We got to be careful, Israel. We got to really strive, right? Go ahead.
For they forsook the law of the Most High, even the kings of Judah fell.
Man, because you got a lot of people to this day, they want to big up the tribe of Judah as if Judah always had it together. Most High said, just like how the 10 tribes went off, he said, Judah, you failed too. I'm upset with both of y'all. And now here we are today, year 2021, trying to get it right, still teaching and keeping the laws of the Most High. All praises. All praises. So let's go back to 1 Samuel. We almost done. Like I said, I wanted to focus on the good things and the great things that the Most High loved out of David. Because like I said, unfortunately he did fall. He had the instance where he committed adultery and also murder. You could read about the long history that he has literally going to war with his own family. His sons turning against him, trying to take his life. David's house got destroyed. But the thing that's so honorable is that he never gave up the faith. He took it on the chin and actually invited it. He wasn't like, man, I know I messed up Most High and don't really punish me. No, he said, I want you to punish me for what I did. I was foul. How could I? I don't even deserve to be alive. And that's how he lived his life. That's what inspired him to be more and more righteous. Right? So go back to 1 Samuel and get chapter 18. And let's read verse 13.
Book of 1 Samuel, chapter 18, verse 13.
Uh-huh.
Therefore Saul removed him from him and made him his captain over 1,000. And he went out and came in before the people.
So I just wanted to bring this part back up. This is how you make yourself beloved of the Most High. Go in and go out before your people. Serve the people. Go ahead.
And David behaved himself wisely in all his ways.
And as men, leaders of Israel, because every single man is a leader in his own right. We all need to make sure that we're behaving more and more wisely, right? Go ahead.
And the Lord was with them. Wherefore, when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him.
So you got this same thing going on today. You got people who's keeping an eye on you because you carry yourself in the light of the Most High. Lord willing, you'll be an example to those people. They'll have the fear of the Most High instilled in them and want to repent. Read.
Well, all Israel and Judah loved David because he went out and came in before them.
And that's how you'll be loved of the Most High too, by doing the exact same thing. So go down to Psalm chapter 97 and verse 10. Psalm 97. Because one thing also that I didn't touch on is how much David hated wicked Israelites. Hated it. When there was sin within the nation, he was making it his responsibility to find who it is, who was offending, and get them up out of there. Literally. Watch this. Verse 10.
Verse 10. Ye that love the Lord hate evil.
We know that David loved the Lord. So you know that he hated evil. And there was a lot of evil Israelites. Trust me, if Saul wasn't anointed, David would have been killed him. Because guess what? There was another instance in David's history while he was on the run from Saul where he ran into a rich man named Nabal. And David, he had soldiers with him and everything. And this dude had like 1,000-something sheep. So, sheep got to be kept up. He was helping the workers of that man trim, feed the sheep, water the sheep. And all he said was, hey, man, I helped your people out. I'm hoping you can help me out and give me some food for me and my soldiers. We on a run right now for our lives. He said, nigga, I don't know you. Who are you? That I'm supposed to give up everything I worked for to some dude I don't even know. He was getting ready to put him to death for that because he was being stingy and greedy. And the Most High never said David was wrong for that. This man refused to feed David and his army, and David was going to kill him for that. And it said that the dude had a history of being wicked. It said he was evil and churlish in his ways. So when you serving the Most High, best believe when the scriptures say judgment gonna start at the house of God, you're gonna be the main ones making sure your people is right. Hey, nah. But that's what real love is. That's how you really love your people. You got to correct them, because that's what it says in Leviticus. It says you're not going to do no unrighteousness in judgment. Matter of fact, if you don't tell your people that they sinning, that they need to get it right when they tripping, you showing that you hate them. So we got to keep all these things in mind. But was that all of that song?
That was, you still got a little bit left.
Come on, go ahead.
He preserveth the souls of his saints. He delivered them out of the hand of the wicked.
Con. Now watch this. Go to 1 Kings. So like I said, you got all the loving, the passion, and all that type of stuff from David, but you also got the warrior in David too that the Most High loved, because he was a valiant man and always stood up for what was right. Now watch this. You're going to get a kick out of this one. 1 Kings chapter 2. And verse 1, this is David getting ready to die because he's an older man now, and he's passing over the jewels and the keys to the kingdom to his son Solomon. Watch the dialogue. Go ahead.
Now the days of David drew nigh that he should die. And he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man.
He said, look, first and foremost, you getting ready to lead these people. Be strong and show yourself as a man, how a real man should be. Not effeminate, because it's a lot of effeminate men with modern Israelites. You need to be a real man of the Most High. Go ahead.
And keep the charge of the Lord thy power,
Uh-huh.
to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, his commandments, and his judgments, and his testimonies.
You see that? He's not saying, yeah, son, you got all these riches and these fame, man, go live it up and go hit all these chicks, go crazy. Nah, he's saying, look, if you want this thing to be successful, make sure you're keeping all the charges of the Most High. You keeping all the commandments, all the statutes, all the laws, all the judgments. Go ahead.
As it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself.
Uh-huh.
That the Lord may continue his word which he spake concerning me, saying, if thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel.
You see that? He said, look, man, the Most High told me if I do such and such, we're going to have a kingdom forever, and I believe it. So you need to do right by that, uphold that agreement, uphold those words, and live righteously. Go ahead.
Moreover, thou knowest also what Joab, the son of Zeruiah, did to me.
He said, so hold on. He said, so he imagine you on your dying bed, right? And you getting all this stuff, and you probably sad, like, man. And he said, and also, don't forget what old dude did to me. Read.
And what he did to the two captains of the host of Israel, to Abner the son of Ner, and to Amasa the son of Jether.
These are Israelites. He said, don't forget about what happened. Go ahead.
Whom he slew, and shed the blood of war in peace, and put the blood of war upon his girdle that was about his loins, and in the shoes that were on his feet.
Now watch this. Read.
Do therefore according to thy wisdom.
He says, son, I know you wise, and you going to do the wise thing. Go ahead.
And let not his whore head go down to the grave in peace.
He said, make sure this dude dies a painful death. And this I had to bring this out because this is for the, man, all Israel, man. No, David was a righteous man. And he gave these instructions to his son to go and kill other Israelites who were wicked. It's not a we all Israel thing. Remember, David was a man after the Most High's heart. So if he's cool with that, then come on. We got to stop playing games, Israel. Read.
But show kindness unto the sons of Barzillai of Gilead.
A Gileadite,
And let them be of those that eat of thy table.
He said, however, these people over here, do right by them. I know you ain't got no real connection with them, but I do. Read.
For so they came to me when I fled.
So they helped him out when I was on the run back in the day from Saul. They helped me out. So you look out for them. You let them eat at the table. Go ahead.
Because of Absalom, thy brother.
Because remember, like I said, he was having war with his own people, his own family. And I think I said he was running from Saul. He was on the run from his son Absalom. So he said, look, you do right by them. But it just goes to show this man was virtuous all the way to the day that he died. He didn't forget his vows. If he told you, hey, I'm going to do right by you, which what you about to see, he meant that. Go ahead.
Verse 8, and behold, thou hast with thee Shimei, the son of Gera, a Benjamite of Bahurim, which cursed me with a grievous curse in the day when I went to Mahanaim. But he came down to me. He came down to meet me at Jordan.
So he said, look, also don't forget about this other dude. He cursed me something cold. He wished death upon me, my whole house, my granny, my mama. I pissed on her grave. He cursed me bad. He said, don't forget about him. Because watch this. He said he came down to meet me at the river. Go ahead.
And I swear to him by the Lord, saying, I will not put thee to death with the sword.
He said, man, I told this dude, I swear by the Most High God, I'm not going to kill you. But I didn't say anything about my son. Go ahead.
Now therefore hold him not guiltless, for thou art a wise man and knowest what thou oughtest to do.
Look, he said you already know what you got to do to this dude. I don't think y'all really hearing me. He said, dude, you're a wise, you should already know what needs to happen to this dude. David was real. David was too real. Go ahead.
But his whore head bring thou down to the grave with blood.
Look at that. He said, go get it back in blood. This is what we dealing with. So like I said, I wanted to focus on some of the lighter things of David's history. Last thing, go to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12 and verse 13. Because at the end of the day, this is all the Most High is asking of us. And he said, look, I just got all these different examples for you. So when you going through your trials and your times of hardship, you can reflect on these and meditate on these and figure out what it is you need to do to keep your spirit and keep everything, tight and righteous. Because that's the thing. We allow these testing things that we go through to knock us off our square and get us out of character to where we start offending. We can't do that. We got to rise to the occasion like our foremothers and forefathers did. But go ahead.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12 and verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High.
Yep.
And keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man.
That's the whole duty of man. At the end of the day, if you want to argue about this and argue about that, he said, look, we should be able to agree upon this. We all got to keep these commandments and fear the Most High because that's what is required. So, again, we appreciate y'all for tuning in, Israel. You guys have been showing a lot of love on the streams. The numbers is going up. You guys have been sharing. That means the word of the Most High is going out. The more of our people that wake up, the sooner we can go home. So continue to do y'all part. We thank y'all for supporting us. That's tonight's lesson. I'm going to say shalom.
It's mixed, y'all.